Hello again, everyone. The horror nerd, Todd Staruch, here at the second New Jersey HorrorCon and Film Festival. I have the honor and privilege to be sitting here with legendary actor and star of the Rocky Horror Picture Show, among many other TV shows and movies, Mr. Barry Bostwick. Barry, how are you today?
I'm good. Where does the word nerd come from? I mean, it's short for something that... do you know what nerd is? I mean, everyone knows what a nerd is, but where does it come from?
You know what? Wow, you got me, because I honestly do not know. And I was a total nerd all through high school, and even now I wave my nerd flag proudly,
Really?
But I couldn't even tell you.
Okay, well, we'll come up with something. Nerd. All right. You got to come up with an answer for that. I'm not going to be the only one who asks you what nerd is. I mean, I know what horror is. Horror apparently is what you're thinking right now because I asked you what nerd meant. Yep.
I'm like,
So now you're living in horror, trying to explain nerd. Okay.
No, it's all right. Now I'm going to have to come up with something. You're the first person ever to ask me that.
It's nerdalicious, nerdificious, something nerd. I don't know.
I know what a nerdgasm is.
What's that?
It's when, a nerd, when you see a TV show or something that really gets your nerd flag, your nerd going, that nerdgasm.
Yeah. Well, because I did this movie, the Rocky Horror Picture Show, years ago.
Yeah, I think I've heard of it.
There's a lot of nerdgasms that go on in front of this table over a weekend like this, which I love, and it's why I do it, I just love to see the gasms by the nerds.
Does it, and I'm sure you've been asked this 1,000 times, but at heart, I am still a fan of horror and film. Does it surprise you the longevity and the popularity?
Consider this a horror movie?
I do not. I do not. I consider it a musical with sort of horror overtones.
Yeah, funny sort of...
horror comedy, maybe?
It's really a rock and roll concert with some lines in between. They had to find something to string the music together, and I guess it's horror because Meatloaf gets beaten and killed, and there's a lot of blood, and then we eat him. So that would, I guess, be part of the horror of it. But probably all the other horror part of it is that 43 years later, we still haven't made a nickel off of it, the actors. So that's why. That would be my horror story. But what it's done for us is it's given us a whole community of people that we've fallen in love with and who've fallen in love with us. And it's a movie that's had, I think, great social impact, and sometimes political impact because of the message of the movie. So we're all the originals and the people who've been doing it on stage for 43 years. I'm very proud of the piece, and it's something that probably of all the things I've done, I'm the proudest of.
That's awesome. And, does it ever surprise you, the passion that people still have, doing stage shows, people acting it out? And literally, it's playing somewhere every night at midnight.
Yeah, well, it is factually the longest running, continuous running movie ever, and it's running somewhere in the world every week, sometimes more than twice a week, and it's I think it goes back to the message of the film, and I think that's why new generations jump to it and identify with it. This sort of the loss of innocence. Almost every character in the piece loses their innocence in one way or another, which is what a young teen would be going through, that journey of self-discovery. And it's pretty much, I think, what is attractive to them is that they finally get to the point, the fans, who go, well, I can dream it, I can be it, I can do whatever I want, I can be something that maybe isn't acceptable to my parents or my friends or the school I go to, but I'm going to live a genuine life, and make myself happy, and find a community which will support me in those choices.
Absolutely, and you mentioned the political aspect of it now, especially today in politics with so much going on controversially with the transgender community, and it's so much in the forefront now, and you're right. People go back to the message of this film, and it's still relevant today.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think that it's. I hope that people are still listening to it, and I mean we are going backwards in many areas, and as I think as this new generation of kids, because when we do screenings of this occasionally at conventions, there's out of maybe 600 or 800 people, there'll be 100 or more what we call virgins, who have never seen it, and they're all under the age of 21, and you go, that's such a good sign. To me, that's a good sign that the film is still relevant.
It's true, and it's fantastic. So, setting Rocky Horror aside just for a moment, out of the many other films and TV shows that you've been involved in, what are some of the ones that are your personal favorites to have worked on?
I did a miniseries years ago called George Washington, where I played George Washington. And that was one of my favorites because it was an honest portrayal of who George Washington was, I thought, at the time. It was one of the first time anybody really tried to humanize him and took him off the dollar bill. And that was meaningful to me. And then Spin City, I think the 6 years I spent on that show with Michael J. Fox and consequently with Charlie Sheen, I think we just made a lot of people laugh, and we made ourselves laugh for 6 years, so which was, I think, catching.
It seemed like you were having fun on that show. It came across.
Oh yeah, well, that was one of the best ensembles, I think, of comedy actors in a series. Top 10, in television, and I'm always astonished when. You see 100 best, you see these reviews of the 100 best TV shows, the 100 best, 10 best, 50 best, that Spin City isn't higher up on the list because, again, I thought it was very relevant for its time. We discussed and made fun of a lot of political action and inaction, things that were going on in New York City at the time. And we could be darn close to the actual event and make fun of it, or it was a wonderful show from that standpoint, that we could go out in New York, we could go out on the streets, we could shoot the real city, and the real city was a character in it, Yeah.
Fantastic. And one last question before I let you get back to just enjoying the convention. Any new projects in the works? What are you working on these days?
Well, I have a show calling on the Hallmark Channel movie called Signed, Sealed, and Delivered, which will be on soon. I have a Christmas movie that's coming out on Lifetime. And I have two movies that just came out, one for Universal called Bigger, Fatter, Liar, which is a remake of Big Fat Liar, a family film called A Mermaid's Tale, which is a sweet film for 13-year-old girls.
My daughter's 12, so I'm sure she'll love it.
Find that movie. She will just love it. And I'm about to start another film, another Christmas movie called Santa's Girl in Virginia next week, so I'm busy.
That's good. Busy is good.
I fit these things in between.
Fantastic. Well,
now you have to go out and figure out what nerd.
I will. I promise I will go figure out what that means. Thank you so much for a few moments of your time. I wish you luck in all your future endeavors and have a great time this weekend at the convention.
You too. Thanks so much.
All right, Barry Bostwick, everybody, and we will see you in the next interview.